Hi guys, this is Alicia. I'm doing my blog post for the treatment group. I'm completely new to the whole idea of a blog post. I've seen lots of them, but seeing it's not quite the same as being the actor in one. So the things that I want to address are, of course, I did go to a treatment group. It was a Zoom meeting since the COVID restrictions in this area are making self-help kind of groups difficult to be a part of. This was actually an Overeaters Anonymous meeting. I'm not normally a part of that fellowship and that type of self-help group. However, it's closely related to a self-help group that I am a part of, which was how I got the information. This group meets every Thursday on Zoom at 7:30 p.m. and is based out of Westchester, Ohio, which is kind of like a bougie suburb of Cincinnati. So this actually meets the ability to be called a treatment group because it's based off of the social and emotional well-being of the people, of like the group members. To be a little bit more narrow in that description, this is a self-help group, and as you can see, I have my lovely ta-da. It says the same is true for a self-help group, which are led by members who share the experience by others, members of the group. I think that's actually kind of cool that it mentions that, that part of the ability for it to be a self-help group has this, they share this common thread. I noticed in my personal self-help group that I belong to, they mentioned something about that in like the beginning readings. They also did that in this group that I went to. So the leader opened up the meeting by reading off of like a format kind of deal. And one of the things that she read was called the preamble. Of course, I don't remember this by memory. So I went ahead and brought it up so that I can share what was shared at the meeting. And it said, Overeaters Anonymous is a fellowship of individuals who, through shared experience, strength, and hope, are recovering from compulsive overeating. We welcome everyone who wants to stop eating compulsively. There are no dues or fees for members. We are self-supporting through our own contribution, neither soliciting nor accepting outside donations. OA is not affiliated with any public or private organization, political movement, ideology, or religious doctrine, and we take no position on outside issues. Our primary purpose is to abstain from compulsive eating and compulsive food behaviors and to carry the message of recovery through the 12 steps of OA to those who still suffers. It was pretty comfortable for me to be in this Zoom meeting because it was run a whole lot of the way that I'm used to it running in my self-help group, where this specific one was like a reading focus group. So they had the text that they read from, which is ironically also called the Big Book, much like the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous would have to have the Big Book. Evidently, they have a Big Book for Overeaters Anonymous too. So the way that this meeting was run, so people would read, they would volunteer. They wasn't like told in a particular order. They'd volunteer if you had the material and to read a piece of it, and then kind of reflect on the piece that you read. So the first couple people that shared, kind of, it seemed like shared at random. They were ready to open their mouths and speak and get it over with. And so then people began to, I guess, peruse the sections because it sounded like people were more choosing a section relating to something that they were going through and something that was current for them. And I thought that was really cool. I'd never seen that done before in a self-help style group. As far as the developmental stage of the group, let's see, it says I need to explore it and discuss it in detail and provide evidence of learned analytical skill that include going beyond what is said and other practice skills learned in social work courses. I would think that this group can't ever really get past kind of the forming stage because there's not like a requisite number of people that join. You don't sign up ahead of time. It's kind of whoever is able to gets on. So I would say that it can't really get past that forming stage because there's always the social opportunity of being able to meet newcomers in the group. And then they're not there for like a committed amount of time. They're there for as long as they want to be, or until they find a different group that they want to be a part of. So I think that would be the official. However, there's also something called a business meeting that happens within that, and I think that would no longer be considered a self-help group. I think that kind of sect of what happens, like how they do more of like tasks. So in the business meeting kind of construct, they decide who gets the money that's been donated, how do they split it up, do we want to start off with this reading, and they do like more of a consensus in voting. That being said, I was just told about that part. I didn't actually attend that part. I just attended the actual meeting proper, which was a treatment self-help group. It would be interesting if it could go into the storming phase. I just don't think that it's long term enough to be able to do that, and there's not really like a conscription. Like, you don't sign up to take like 4 classes and then you're done, or like 16 weeks as if it would be in like a substance use treatment group. I think that the criteria referral is, it's right now because of Zoom. I think it goes mostly by word of mouth. It was very difficult for me to find like a real meeting that was existing. Like, I tried to go on the website, and the website shows a couple of local, this is the Overeaters Anonymous like website. And it shows a couple like in the Dayton area, Dayton, Ohio, where I live, that are like used to be in-person meetings, but unfortunately, the push has been more to Zoom. I was warned beforehand that if I was looking at like a meeting schedule, to kind of take it with a grain of salt, because I could just show up somewhere and there would be nobody there because everything's moved to Zoom. So I kind of put feelers out into the world. Somebody that I knew was involved in that type of self-help group, and asked if, there was an open meeting that I could observe. And that was kind of cool. So as far as like for referral to the group, there's not like an official referral process because it's self-help, but it's pretty common for like medical professionals to be able to refer to this kind of group. So those that are seeking weight loss surgery, I happen to fall in that category. Hi, I hope it happens in like 2 months. Yay. Those types of those individuals can get referral to that through there's usually like a psych evaluation involved in that kind of pre-op process. So at that point, if deemed necessary by the treatment team, it can be referred to, hey, you need to go to so many Overeaters Anonymous meetings. But there's not really like a strict referral. And according to, the opening readings that I mentioned before, it's pretty much, if you feel you have a problem with compulsive overeating, welcome, we want you here. So as far as the group members' level of participation, because it wasn't a formal group and it was like a voluntary basis, so there were lots of little, bingo boxes, or I like to call them the Brady Bunch boxes on the Zoom meeting. There were lots of people there. I think it said that there was something like 31 people there, in the Zoom chat room, however you want to call that format. But I would say probably only maybe a third of them shared, and that includes just those that were reading out of the reading, and then also those that pitched in things towards the end where, it was open for general discussion. That was kind of cool. I did notice kind of an ethical conflict. One of the members, and it sounded like this lady had been a member for a while, talked about having thoughts of suicide. No plan or intent of suicide, but having thoughts about, being so uncomfortable in her skin that she wished that she was no longer here. And I kind of found that kind of ethically gray territory, because I'm a mandated reporter. My license as a chemical dependency counselor in the state of Ohio requires me to be a mandatory reporter. Well, this woman was very clear to say she'd had thoughts of suicide, and they were recent thoughts of suicide, but there was no plan, gesture, attempt, anything like that. I felt okay with it, but had she given just a little bit more information, at that point I'm torn, because part of the ethics of these anonymous self-help groups are that they're anonymous, right? But that ethic of anonymity in the self-help setting is not the same as the ethics that I take an oath to uphold as far as my licensure, and that if somebody does appear to be a danger to themselves or somebody else, it's my responsibility to report that. So even outside of my actual career choice job setting and working with clients, these aren't my clients. These are people, fellow human beings, seeking to better themselves and to be able to unburden, what's on their chest so that they can better their lives. So in that situation, I see kind of a negative aspect in what am I supposed to do if somebody in here has that issue? I would wonder if the same holding true because of that kind of mandated reporting. If someone was to report, say, in like an OA meeting, that they were withholding food from a child, right? Because of what their compulsion tells them to do. How would I manage that as somebody that has a professional code to follow in an unprofessional setting? That's something that I'm kind of interested in getting more supervision on, because the reality is I don't know how to handle that. I know that if somebody threatens to kill themselves, like I myself, I don't think that I could just walk away from that if it was, presented to me. But as far as like giving a clinical intervention, wouldn't it be practicing out of scope to go and do a clinical intervention with somebody outside of a clinical setting? Morally, not ethically, morally, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't check and see if that person was okay, or at least offer an open ear. But I was that way before I became licensed. So I see kind of a lot of potential negative ethical issues that could come out of that. I thought that the group leader handled it well. Kind of the policy of the group is do not, under any circumstances, interrupt somebody while sharing. So nobody interrupted this person. However, other group members were encouraged to respond to this as a topic. And I was so happy to hear another group member spoke up and said, it is not a normal thing. There are people in this world who never have suicidal thoughts or ideation. So I don't think it's fair to normalize this. And these are places that you can call in the local Cincinnati area to help. So I thought it was cool that somebody did step up and have that kind of resource. And I was led to kind of wonder, because of my dilemma, was that person a licensed individual doing what they believed was the ethical obligation to their code? So I don't actually know. I didn't stick around and start probing and asking questions. It's weird enough going into somebody's private kind of self-help mode and observing, much less kind of poking and prodding. I didn't feel comfortable enough to poke and prod. There wasn't really any conflict. There's a confidentiality statement is kind of said at the beginning and the end of the meeting. They left the meeting with a kind of general statement. Remember, what you have seen here and what you have heard here are the opinions of the people here. Basically leave it here. Was the general, what you have heard here and seen here, let it stay here. That's kind of a general agreement of the group. I did like that there was an opening and a closing. So at around 5 minutes before the end of the group facilitator, leader, chairperson, I think is the official word, kind of announced, hey, we've got a couple minutes left. Not enough time to read another section out of the reading, but if anybody has anything on their mind, now would be the time to share it. They did mention kind of the idea of what a sponsor is. And the idea, which also differed from my experience in 12-step fellowships, in that a sponsor is somebody that can sponsor you to their level of abstinence, which is not something that's held in the other 12-step fellowships. And they further explain that means if you've gotten to the point where you're just abstinent, then you can help somebody else get to that point. If you've gotten to the point where you've begun making amends for the harm that you've caused for your decisions with food and your compulsive eating, then you can sponsor somebody up until that point. And that was kind of cool. I'd never seen a self-help group operate that way. So that was a new piece for me. Overall, I'd say it was a good experience. I did feel a little bit kind of like an outsider looking in, and also if I'm being very candid, since this is a blog post, wondering what my life would be like with this kind of support. I am going through a weight loss journey, so it's, I can see where this would be kind of a social opportunity to find some acceptance as far as, with the lifestyle changes that are going on with me and the things that I want to commit to and that I am committing to. I could see why this is successful, and that you kind of have a mentorship / place to meet people, a healthy place to meet people that have similar goals. So yeah, I think that's all I have to share today. I really hope I hit every one of those bullet points. Again, kind of new to this process, but thanks for letting me share.